Hello and welcome to our brand new show, Firstpost Spotlight, where we bring you stories that matter to you from all across the world. From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, we shed light on issues that shape our world. I'm Alison Lagrange, live from Durban, South Africa. Let's begin with the top headlines. Authorities recover American airplane's flight data and voice recorder after it collided with a military chopper near Washington, D.C. in one of the deadliest air crashes in U.S. history. Israel claims its military has hit several Hezbollah targets in Lebanon and along the Syrian border, including an underground weapons development facility. Fierce fighting ensues as Russia's forces tighten the noose around Ukrainian city of Pokrovsk, a key logistical hub whose main supply lines are under threat. Japan scrambles fighter jets as Russian bombers fly over international waters around the country. Tokyo says it will respond to repeated airspace incursions by Moscow. And India's finance minister lays the economic survey in the parliament ahead of the 2025 union budget, projecting a 6.3 to 6.8% growth fiscal year 2026. Hello and welcome. We begin with the latest from Southeast Asia, where crisis-ridden Bangladesh is turning to controversial billionaire George Soros to rescue its troubled economy. Now, Alex Soros, the son of George Soros, met with Bangladesh's head of interim government, Muhammad Yunus, in Dhaka. Alex Soros expressed his support for the interim government's reform agenda. Reports say the meeting focused on Bangladesh's economy, reforms, investments, media freedom, cybersecurity, and addressing the Rohingya crisis. The two also discussed tracing Bangladesh's siphoned-off assets. Alex Soros also reportedly said that the student movement that ousted Sheikh Hasina's government offered great opportunities to chart a new course. George Soros' son, Alex Soros, is the chairman of the Open Society Foundations, or the OSF. He was in Dhaka as a part of a delegation that included the OSF president, Binafer Naroji. Now, this is the second meeting between Soros and Yunus in 3 months after the duo met in New York last year in October, just after the Nobel laureate took charge following the fall of the Sheikh Hasina regime. Interestingly, the meeting also comes just days after the Trump administration signaled a halt to billions of dollars in aid to Bangladesh. Donald Trump has decided to freeze all U.S. financial aid abroad. As per reports, Muhammad Yunus asked the OSF to help recover around $234 billion that were allegedly removed illegally from the country during Sheikh Hasina's regime. Relations between Yunus and George Soros' OSF go back to 1999, when he got an $11 million loan from the Soros Economic Development Fund to let Grameen Telecom, a non-profit linked to Yunus, take 35% stake in Bangladesh's biggest telecom operator. In December, former OSF President Mark Malloch Brown also met with Yunus in Dhaka. Now, over years, George Soros, who was conferred with the highest civilian award in the US by Joe Biden, has remained a controversial figure. Reports claim that his NGO, OSF, has been accused of regime change in Eastern Europe, West Asia, and Latin America. Some even claim the OSF played a role in Sheikh Hasina's downfall. Now, Sheikh Hasina also hinted at US role in her ouster, but did not elucidate. Now, Soros has also been frequently peddling anti-India propaganda. His renewed ties with Bangladesh's Yunus also come at a time when tensions between New Delhi and Dhaka are at their peak. So the OSF money flowing into Bangladesh is bound to influence its decision. The Soros-Yunus meeting also comes as Bangladesh's interim government said that it would seek to scrap some uneven agreements on borders with India. George Soros' son visit to Bangladesh is also timed to Yunus's weakening position. Despite claiming to hold power with a promise to hold elections within 3 months, Yunus seems far away from being ready to conduct elections. So discontent among political parties is already brewing. To divert attention from such crucial issues, Yunus has time and again launched an anti-India tirade. He has been repeatedly bringing up India over border issues and calling for the extradition of Sheikh Hasina, who has been residing in India since her ouster. So, is Mohammed Yunus turning to George Soros to harden his anti-India propaganda to cover up failures of his interim government in Bangladesh? Now, from Bangladesh, we shift our focus to Sweden, where an Iraqi man who staged the burning of the Holy Quran several times was shot dead. Swedish media reported that the supposed Quran burner, Salwan Momika, the killing was streamed live on TikTok, and the shooting occurred hours before a court was set to deliver a verdict on Momika's anti-Islam demonstrations. So far, the Swedish police have arrested 5 people in connection with the shooting, but it remains unclear if the shooter was among those detained. Meanwhile, Sweden's Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson condemned the killing and linked an unmanned foreign country with the fatal shooting. The Prime Minister said that Sweden's security services are investigating the killing due to a risk of connection with a foreign power. So who is this foreign power which the Swedish Prime Minister has chosen not to name? In the past, Stockholm has named Iran and Russia as potential troublemakers in the country. Last year, the Swedish intelligence said that Iran was using criminal networks within Sweden to carry out violent acts against its groups and individuals. This came months after Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei suggested that Sweden had declared war on the Muslim world by protecting the now murdered Quran burner. Prior to that, in July 2023, when the row over the Quran burnings was at its peak, Stockholm accused Moscow of spearheading a disinformation campaign against it. The wave of Quran burnings in 2023, primarily led by the now-deceased Momika, forced Sweden to raise its terrorism alert to the second highest level. This came after Momika's anti-Islam demonstrations, publicized through social media, angered Muslims across the world. Muslim-majority countries across West Asia, including Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia and Egypt, strongly criticized the Quran burning and denounced it as shameful and provocative. In June and July of 2023, Iraqi protesters reacted by storming the Swedish embassy twice, starting fires within the compound on the second occasion. Baghdad later expelled the Swedish ambassador and suspended business with Swedish companies. In September of 2023, after a Quran burning was staged, riots erupted in Sweden's Malmö city. Several vehicles were set on fire after scores of people gathered in response to the burning. Now, the episodic violence in Sweden since then has kept authorities on edge amid rising incidents of gang violence, which Stockholm has linked with immigrants from Arab countries. Starting 2023, the repeated acts of Quran burning in Sweden has outraged several nations. What complicated the row was Stockholm's defense of these acts over its strong freedom of speech laws. And shifting focus to China now, the country is building a military command center near Beijing, which reports say would be 10 times bigger than the U.S. Defense Headquarters Pentagon. Amid Beijing's expansionist claims on Taiwan and certain critical areas of the Indo-Pacific, reports say that the massive complex near Beijing will serve as China's wartime command center. The project, dubbed Beijing Military City, is reportedly being built at a 1,500-acre construction site 30 kilometers southwest of Beijing. It has all the hallmarks of a sensitive military facility. The construction is suspected to have begun in mid-2024. Leaked satellite imagery displays large holes at the site believed to be for the bunkers that could protect Chinese leaders during a future conflict. Now, the construction of the site comes amid a multi-year redevelopment in the west of Beijing. In recent months, Chinese social media users shared instances of authorities razing several houses in Qinglonghu area, and reports add that nearby tourist and hiking sites have also been closed for the general public. Experts say that the new facility will give Chinese leaders better security against bunker-buster munitions and even nuclear weapons. Beijing can also incorporate more advanced communications at the site to expand People's Liberation Army, or the PLA's, capabilities and missions. The construction comes as the PLA develops new weapons and projects ahead of its centenary in 2027. Reports citing U.S. intelligence officials say that Chinese leader Xi Jinping has ordered the PLA to develop full-fledged capability to attack self-ruled island Taiwan by then. So, does the construction of this facility point to the seriousness of Chinese threat to annex Taiwan in the garb of what President Xi Jinping called reunification? The signs of Chinese assertiveness on Taiwan were most visible in 2024. Last year, China initiated more than 3,000 incursions into Taiwanese airspace. The incursions particularly increased when Taipei showed proximity with the West to protect its sovereignty from a potential Chinese attack. Besides these air incursions, the PLA also demonstrated more sophisticated joint operations, including drone encirclements of the island, as well as integration of civilian forces. Now, China has also repeatedly engaged in expansionist naval maneuvers and aircraft deployment in the Indo-Pacific. These acts often restrict access to the exclusive economic zones of Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, Vietnam, and the Philippines. Now, military experts believe that the PLA's lack of integration is among its biggest weaknesses, especially when compared with the U.S. armed forces. A massive wartime command center may enable Beijing to enforce its expansionist agenda without much difficulty. Should the world, especially the countries in the Indo-Pacific, be alarmed by China's actionable strategic designs? Now, America loves its eggs, scrambled, fried, poached, or sitting pretty atop a slice of avocado toast. But lately, those golden yolks have been feeling more like liquid gold. In the United States, egg prices have soared to an eye-watering $4.15 per dozen. They are up from a humble $1.48 at the end of U.S. President Donald Trump's first term. According to the Consumer Price Index, this is an 8% increase from November to December just last year. From the moment President Trump swaggered back into the Oval Office, he's been busy signing executive orders. 200 of them on day one, to be exact, tackling everything from tariffs to deportation. While President Trump has been busy threatening other nations with wars and deporting people, one campaign promise remains unfulfilled: making food affordable again, especially eggs. And let's be honest, Americans take their eggs seriously. Whether it's a quick breakfast before work or as a protein-packed snack, eggs are a staple in most households. But with prices rising faster than a souffle in a hot oven, many families are finding themselves skipping the egg aisle altogether. Some grocery stores, including Whole Foods, Lidl, and Trader Joe's, have even started rationing cartons, because nothing screams economic prosperity like being told you can only buy 2 dozen eggs per visit.
It's the first time in my life that I've ever had to be kind of embarrassed on what I'm selling eggs for, and it's not our fault. We're paying today $7.45 for a dozen eggs. We're selling for $7.59. We're making 14 cents. That doesn't pay the bills.
Leaving poultry farmers scrambling to keep up with the demand, and when supply shrinks, prices inevitably skyrocket. The United States Department of Agriculture's 2025 food price outlook paints an even grimmer picture. They say egg prices in the US are expected to rise another 20.3% this year. That's 10 times the overall food inflation rate of 2.2%. So while other grocery items might see marginal price hikes, eggs are set to remain a luxury item. What about the organic and cage-free eggs? Now, those are practically a down payment on a car at this point. With Easter just around the corner in April, demand for eggs is only expected to surge further. But if the current trend continues, some Americans might find themselves painting potatoes instead of eggs this year. Now, retailers across the country have already started limiting purchases, and frustrated shoppers are voicing their discontent.
So I bought eggs just a few days ago, actually. I was making a birthday cake for my boyfriend. And they were, I saw they ranged from $6 to $8 for just even like a dozen of them. And that was, I even said to myself, I'm like, this is blasphemy. It's just robbery. You know, it's really expensive.
While President Trump may claim that tackling grocery costs is a top priority, executive orders cannot resurrect millions of dead chickens or magically refill America's poultry farms. For now, the only real option is patience and maybe some creative egg substitutes. The bird flu crisis needs to be properly managed and poultry farms need time to recover. But in the meantime, maybe it's time to start appreciating oatmeal. And that's all we have on the show for today. We will see you again on Monday at the same time. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to First Post.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT.